Hi, boys and girls. Well, our book is Astronauts. And we can see here on the cover there's an astronaut floating around in space with a lot of equipment. A lot of jobs require tools and equipment in order to be able to do your job. And maybe this book will be able to share some of the equipment needed by astronauts. And it's written by Thomas K. Adamson, and it looks like it's illustrated by Gail Saunders Smith. Well, let's find out what is part of being an astronaut and maybe what they do. Let's find out. Here is our title page, Astronauts, and we can see 2 astronauts ready to go up into space. Looks like there's a lot of equipment and dials that you need to be able to work and use. Takes a lot of schoolwork to know exactly what to do. Astronauts, lift off. A space shuttle leaves Earth. A crew of astronauts is on its way to space. So the space shuttle is attached to a rocket which has fuel cells, and they have lit those fuels or ignited the fuel, which causes it to be able to have the power to break out of Earth's gravity and lift off into space. It's got to fight a very powerful force. Astronauts are part of space missions. They risk their lives to learn more about the solar system. We can see a lot of bits of equipment going on there. Astronauts at work. Astronauts have jobs to do in space. They do tests, and they fix satellites. So this gentleman's job is to fix satellites and run tests up there. That's part of his work. Astronauts can work outside of their ships. They go on spacewalks. Oh, and there's those tethers we were talking about too, to help keep you safe by not letting you drift off into outer space and get lost. We can see you're using like some kind of hose here, holding on to another piece of equipment here. There's that tether. And we've got to be able to learn how to work the tanks. There is no air in space. Astronauts wear spacesuits so they can breathe. There he is inside his helmet where there is air that he can breathe. And on the side here, we can see the lights so that they will be able to see if they're working somewhere particularly dark. We see that they have the flag of their nation on the side and a flag showing what part of the mission they are part of. Some astronauts live and work on space stations. They can stay in space for months at a time. So we know that a month is longer than a week, longer than a day, longer than an hour, longer than a minute, and longer than a second, but less than a year. Exploring space. Astronauts explore space like no one else can. They float above Earth. They can walk on the moon. Whoa, this one is floating out in space. I'm hoping he knows how to get back to his spacecraft. Or her. She may be deciding, how she's going to get back. Astronauts have landed on the moon 6 times. They studied the moon. They gathered rocks and soil. Hey, just like the Berenstain Bears did. He's putting rocks in a container rather than a tote. And we can see their little craft behind him or her. Astronauts will keep exploring space. What do you think they will learn on their next mission? We can see that's an entire team. Remember, you've got to have good teamwork and be able to share both tools and responsibilities in order to be able to have a successful space mission. And then here's our glossary where we can learn about the meaning of words, read more in our internet sites. Well, we saw in this book that astronauts have a lot of jobs to do while they're in space, and it takes tools and equipment in order to be able to complete those jobs. Well, in your packet, you will find a sheet that looks like this. It will be your job to cut out what you think the astronaut uses as tools and equipment up in space, and then glue it around them so they have that equipment and those tools ready and available to use. And when you're done, you could draw yourself inside the helmet, being an astronaut in space, and then color what you think your astronaut suit would look like when you went up into space. All right, future astronauts, figure out what tools would be used in space to help you have a successful space mission.